Good evening. Welcome. I'm John. I'm the event director at Literati Bookstore. We're pleased to welcome Jarod Pratt Jey Odin in support of Lemonade Code this evening. Quick overview of webinars. For those who joined late, chat is closed. You might want to keep the chat window up as I'll be dropping links to purchase Lemonade Code from Literati Bookstore in the chat. If you're watching later on YouTube, there are always links to purchase books from Literati Bookstore right in the description below me. You can also subscribe to catch more of our events at any time. And you can submit questions if you're watching live using the Q&A feature available to you at any time. As a reminder, you can also shop for more books at literatibookstore.com for curbside pickup if you live in Southeast Michigan, or to have shipped to your home anywhere in the United States. And in lieu of a book purchase, we'd also ask that you consider a $5 donation to sustain our virtual programming. Whether you like to think of it as this week's or this month's or this year's subscription to our programming, you can make donations at literatibookstore.com/donation. Otherwise, we simply thank you for your attendance this evening or this morning or this afternoon, depending on where and when in the world you may be joining us from. And now I'll introduce the author and illustrator of Lemonade Code. Jarod Pratt is a writer from Detroit, Michigan. Lemonade is his favorite drink. Yet somehow when he was a kid, he never got the chance to run a lemonade stand of his own. So many years later, he wrote this book instead and lived out his childhood dream that way. Pratt has two daughters and they both drink the lemonade, but he's not sure they really appreciate a lemonade, not like he does. Pratt really, really likes lemonade. Jey Odin is an artist known for his work on the book Miles Away and his creator-owned title, Chicken Fight. His ongoing series, Hammer, is serialized in the world's most diverse manga anthology, Saturday AM. Jey spent 2 years of his life drawing the book you're reading right now while working a day job, pharmacy. He lives in Georgia with his lovely, supportive wife and two hilariously cute dogs. They can't hear you, but they can sense you through the power of the internet, wherever and whenever you are. Please join me in welcoming Jarod Pratt Jey Odin to At Home with Literati. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me this evening.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
So for young readers or readers of all ages who are unfamiliar with Lemonade Code, before we dive into the book itself, if you can just give us maybe a sort of overview of what it was about and maybe where as you heard in Jarod's intro, sort of some of the genesis of the idea, but just sort of the broad strokes of what is Lemonade Code.
Okay, Lemonade Code is a story, takes place in Detroit in a not too distant future. A kid named Robbie opens a high-tech lemonade stand that can replicate any flavor you want, no matter how ridiculous. And then a little girl moves in across the street and she opens her own old-fashioned stand, and sparks of all kind happen. And so and it was just it was an idea I had from, I wanted to be a newspaper strip, honestly. Me and my cousin, he draws. We were going to try to pitch it as a newspaper strip, but it just never happened. And I had a chance to enter through Oni's submission process that they had maybe in 2015 or 16, and just reworked into a single narrative and tried to put a little bit more heart into it. And that's pretty much the genesis.
And so, Jey, how did you get involved in the process?
Yeah, so sorry, my throat is yeah, so I was attending this college. It's called Savannah College of Art and Design, SCAD. It's in Georgia. And I had known an editor from like this event called Editors Day, where they bring all the editors from different companies to talk to all the students and, just check out their portfolio, give them advice, or, even give them a card every now and then. But I had known like this one editor from my roommate, like he had a connection with her. He had worked on a few books. And when I saw her in Editors Day, she looked at my portfolio. She really liked my stuff. And it was just, I don't know, I had already known her. So it was really cool to just talk to her more and more. And she said that, she might have a project for me and, for me to be on the lookout for an email. And then a few weeks later, I got this email basically asking me if I wanted to try and pitch something And at the time, the only stories that I had in mind were like way too long, and that's actually the story that I'm currently working on right now, Hammer, which is being serialized at Saturday AM. But I wanted to do something for Oni Press because it was my dream to do something ever since I had read Scott Pilgrim. So I tried thinking of another story, and in the meantime of me thinking of that story, she hit me up and told me that there was a contest, and in this contest, somebody was able to submit something that was awesome, and she sent it to me and said, "Hey, read this over. What do you think?" I loved it. While I was reading it, I imagined everything that I drew.
Wow.
So it was just it was really cool to be a part of, to know that I could be a part of something that was completely different than any other story that I had ever drawn or tried to draw. So after I read that, she asked me if I could try out for it, and I was able to get to the next phase, and I got the script, and I just went from there. So yeah, it was really cool. It was awesome.
That's incredible. Jarod, what is Jay reading when he's sort of reading the script? Like what kind of, when you're writing out something that's going to be a book, but there's no images for it yet. What does that look like? Or were there images?
No images. Well, maybe just one or two images I found.
There were a few references.
Yeah. But overall, it was full script. I just wrote it out panel by panel description and dialogue and sent it over. It was a really smooth process, honestly. It just really went easy, man. It was the breeziest thing that you can imagine possible for putting a book together, especially with two people just put together that didn't know each other. And it was pretty easy. Sent it over to Jay, and his art knocked it out the park. It's just beautiful.
Is there any hesitancy? Is there any worry, when you're sending a script out, you've got all the panels there, when you're writing the script, are you envisioning, is there something in your head that you're worried that maybe, I feel I don't know, speaking of myself, where I send out a script, I feel like as I was writing, I would sort of envision what things would look like as I'm writing it. And then I would maybe be a little bit, this is me, selfish and oh, what if this looks what if I don't like what I get back? Is there a little bit in your head, what you kind of have ideas that are sort of stuff that surprises you, or things that are you're maybe you're maybe, if I don't know, I feel I would be this looks a certain way in my head, and I don't want it to look a different way.
No, I guess the good thing is that I don't really hold super clear images in my head, even when I'm writing. So it's more I get into the characters more. I can kind of really see the characters, but as far as background, especially knowing I'm not an artist and it took place in the future, and it would just his artwork exceeded everything that I actually think I saw in my head. For instance, because I always like to apologize to him, I wrote these massive crowd scenes. I've learned better. I'll never do this again.
I appreciate
it. He individually put every character in there, the just diversity of character models is amazing. And in my head, I only really saw the characters that were talking in silhouettes. I didn't see this vibrant, full, just colorful scene like that. But so it actually looked better than it looks in my head. So I was just thrilled. And from the beginning, I had got character breakdowns. So even before I really wrote the script, I got to work with the editor every step of the way. I had some reference art what the characters would already look like from the descriptions I had given him. So yeah, it just it worked out pretty good. But
that's cool,
man. Yeah, it was a great process. And just blown away. It looks so much better. Like I say, the haze in my head and what he put on the page, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So,
yeah, I think I would also think if I was writing a crowd scene, I think I would feel okay, there's the 2 or 3 or whatever principal characters, and then in the background there'll be what you said, a silhouette of a murmuring crowd. But Jay, you did individual character.
Yeah, so I actually so at the start of drawing this book, when I first got the script, I had already made a promise to myself that I wanted this book to be sort of a training session. I was I'm going to go all out for this book. It was Oni Press, it was the same company that, got me into Scott Pilgrim,
Right.
when it first came out back in like, I don't know, 2006, 2005, something like that. And I loved it. And I was, that was a dream of mine. And to be able to actually get to a point where I could actually like make it come true, I was like, I got to go all out. And there's going to be everybody looking at this. I just need to make it look as amazing as I possibly can. So when I read the script, I was immediately intimidated because I had already made that promise. And then I looked at all these crowd scenes and I was like, damn it. I should do something else. And I was like, no, you got to stay focused. So I, there's several times where I wanted to just silhouette everything, but then I just kept on thinking. I was like, okay, well, I know this artist decided to draw like her entire family or all of her friends from high school or whatever inside of like the crowd scenes, so that way, you can make it interesting for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's basically what I did. I also took a lot of the cues from Jarod in the script. He would say, this is from the future. So there were a few reference pictures that he put in there, not necessarily for fashion, but there were still enough for me to be able to try to imagine a different type of future. And I tried to like just expand the fashion in like a future like ish way. I didn't want it to look so futuristic that like it was alien, but like I wanted it to, be like retro enough to where you could technically see that like, I don't know, like 2 weeks from now on somebody. So like I don't know. It was just I really wanted it to like just feel like it was a lived-in world. So it took a long time, but I appreciate the apology, Jarod. Thank you very much. My hand does feel a lot better, so thank you.
Yeah. I told you, I apologize for life. We'll be like, I'm very sorry about that crowd. Like, oh, boy.
So Jay, you mentioned Scott Pilgrim as like, it's sort of like the touchstone Oni Press title. And you have your own, creator-owned titles and serialized titles that you do. Is there a different approach? Is there like an Oni style that you're trying to sort of fit into? How does your artistic approach change from project to project? Obviously it's always going to have your sort of hallmarks, but I'm wondering if you try to be conscious of, in this case, like the press that's putting it out, or something maybe is going to have more of a manga style than something else. If you make little sort of moderations to how you generally approach your work,
yeah,
whether it's yours or it's another writer.
So it's a good question. When it comes to another writer's work, I usually try to see at first what they want. Jarod was super easy to work with. He was, okay with everything that I gave him. So I was like, all right, I'll just keep going. Actually, it was kind of alarming to me. I was like, am I doing okay? Like, do you have any feedback? Like, what's going on? So,
you think he was setting you up for like a big,
until like I get to the last page and he's like, hey, Robbie's supposed to have a scar on his eye. And I was like, oh, like, I don't know, something. So like, I was actually like, I was really surprised that he was like so easy to work with, because I was basically just drawing the way I usually draw my series. Hammer is it's a manga, but I am trying to coin this term. It's cartoony manga, and that's basically like my entire style. Like I have had changed my style from my very first series called Chicken Fight. Chicken Fight looks a lot more manga aesthetic, closer to like maybe One Piece and I don't know, some other like mangas like mixed together. And after that series, I was like, you know what? I want to create something or another style anyway that I could draw this story, and everybody, no matter what, when they pick it up, they'll immediately say, this looks interesting. Like, whether it be a cartoon and you like looking at cartoony things, or, this is manga because you've read so much. So when I changed that style for Hammer, I had just started, like, I had just gotten the script from Jarod, and I was like, all right, well, I want this book to look the exact same thing, the exact same way. And I feel like that was just a good way to just like, I guess, I don't know, like put my stamp on it. Like, hey, this is Jey Odin's work. So, that's the reason why I kept the same style for Lemonade Code. But for my other books and stuff, for Miles Away, for example, that was back in like 2011, 2010 or so. And maybe, I don't know, 2012. I have no idea. It's a while ago. But he wanted like something that was a lot more like sharp and kind of more Ben 10-ish looking. And, that was a little bit like, it wasn't like hard. It was challenging because it was different than what I usually. At that point in time, I was drawing more like the One Piece and stuff, so it was challenging to change it. But after that, I had realized that it was having more of a cartoony style was I guess more universally liked. So that's the reason why I changed it in the first place. So yeah, that's usually what it is. I just draw, normally now, whenever it's my story, I just draw, however I see it in my head is how I draw it. So there are some stories that I see a lot more detailed. But I don't really like drawing a lot of detail, so I try to stay away from those, ideas in my head. No, but it happens. I have drawn a few stories that are a lot more detailed. So, but overall, I just try to keep a cartoony light feel because I feel like that's just cartoony manga. I feel like that's just it can give you a good feeling. I don't know what feeling that will be, but hopefully in the future everybody will have that awesome feeling whenever they look at my stuff. So.
Yeah, that's great.
Definitely fun art.
Yes, that's yeah. I want not only that, but also detail to an extent. Like let me back up because there is a lot of detail in like him inside of Lemonade. Like when I say detail, I mean like anatomically correct. Everybody's like a lot more stiff. Maybe a lot more cross hatching, like that type of detail. I've had stories like that in my head, and I can draw that way, but it slows me down, and I like just drawing everything that I want to draw. So that's the reason why I draw cartoony because it's a lot faster for me. So that's I feel like a better explanation on that. But yeah, so
okay.
Jared, was this sort of like the look that you? I mean, Jay mentions that you didn't have like negative feedback, but like I'm just curious. Guys, two questions is like, did you have, way back when it was? You mentioned that when it was the idea for a strip, you had a cousin who was maybe going to fill in artist. But as you're developing into this one piece, I mean, did you think in similar terms to Jay? I know you're a comic book reader yourself. Of like what kind of art style you were going for? Is that a conversation you had with the press? And then my other question is just, for maybe young creators out there or people who are interested in the behind the scenes process. Jay mentioned that it took, or it says his bio, took a couple years to put this all together. So what is that back and forth process like? Are there script alterations that happen? Deviations that you need to make as an artist is choosing to do things to fill in those panels, that kind of stuff. So I feel like that's asked two super long questions.
No, it's okay. I think I got them there. So I would say the art for the first question. Yeah, definitely. Like my cousin's art style was manga-esque. So I kind of saw it in that way, but there was something about I still think I saw maybe like Jay's work is, like you say, it's cartoony. Manga, it's a little bit different than I think the regular stuff is, and the exaggerated just quality and charm of it was above what I had actually seen in my head. So it was, it was just pretty beautiful to come in. This really was a perfect fit, like for this story for me. Like it was just, the process was easy. I worked with the editor in writing the script, so we did a lot of the edits and a lot of the scenes that had to be taken out were taken out before the script even made it to Jay's hands. And then by the time it made it to Jay's hands, maybe it was already complete. Like from there were sometimes going to be times where I had to, it's pretty wordy. So there were times where I had to cut out like dialogue here and there and stuff like that, or take out captions before, when it got to the lettering phase by Crank. Also, shout out to Crank because he's never on these calls, but my goodness, that was a lot of words he had to put in there.
Yes, he did a good job. He did a really good job. Shout out to him.
So shout out to Crank. He did an excellent job. And to do it like that makes the book just as good as the art, because he really, like, it's so many words, and to be able to fit it in and let the art still breathe and still be able to tell a story when the words kind of threaten to overwhelm it. It's my first time ever doing this. And, I write screenplays a lot, and screenplays tend to be, I like to write screenplay comedy. So they tend to be dialogue heavy, and trying to take that thing over into graphic novels. I see. I like how it came out. It's pretty good, but I do see where a lot of that could have probably been minimized and still got to the story the same way. Because Jay's art tells the story without the words. It's like a cartoon on the page. It's like you could just watch it and just breeze through it, and you pretty much know everything that was going on for the most part, you know. So so that was pretty much the process. By the time I think it got to Jay, like I said, he would shoot me pages and I would just be amazed. And he'd ask questions, are you this good? I'm like, you can do anything you want to do. You had me sold from the first thumbnail.
And I was like, okay. Sure.
And so much of what he did adds to the story too. So like there's just little details he put in. For instance, like you were talking last time, the page at the beginning where we kind of, because I don't know if you all saw the movie Friday, it was kind of an inspiration for this too. It had a lot of weird inspiration for the story, but everything taking place just on one corner. But there's a scene where we actually at least go downtown for a minute, and Jay shows us all these posters on the wall, and you just see how this crowd's doing it, like posing for selfies, people walking the dog. It's just that kind of detail brought the story to such life. And yeah, it was just beautiful, man. Like it was the easiest process I can imagine. It was so easy that the next time if it happens and it's hard, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, why can't you be more like him? Why can't you be more like him?
Yeah, so I mean, first off, I think it was like a chemical reaction. The story and the art, like, you know, I think they fit so well that, you know, Lemonade Code, you know, in my head, like when I first got the script, I saw it as a cartoon. So I'm happy that, like, you know, just you can breeze through it. So I'm really happy to hear that. I remember when I showed you the when everything was completed, all the inks, you showed it to your daughter and you said that she liked it. So that was a nice boost for me. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, that's really cool. In regard to the reason why it took so long, so when I first got the script, like I said, I had just started working on my series Hammer. This is actually like a prototype book of my series.
Cool.
And let me see if I can flip through it. And it's basically, it's about this kid who gets sucked into his father's journal, and he has to, you know, fight monsters, turning any part of his body into a hammer. So, long story short, I started working on that. Well, at first, the editor, she had gotten in touch with me, told me that, like, we were going to do this thing. I said, cool. And, you know, I signed the contracts, and then I waited for like a long time. And during that time, Jarod was, you know, doing all the edits and everything for the script. So during that time, I was like, all right, well, I don't want to be lazy. And, you know, I have the story in my head, so let me draw. So I drew 300 pages. And, like, you know, I started putting it out on Webtoons and like all sorts of stuff. And during that time, Saturday AM, the company I'm working for right now, they saw my stuff, came to me and said, hey, we really like this. Did you want to try to do something with us? So like at first I gave them like it was like a small one shot for a different series. And then I liked their setup and like how everything was. So I was like, yeah, let me do this. So I put out, you know, Hammer with them. And in the middle of me putting Hammer out with them is when I got the script. So I was like, oh no, like now I have to focus on this script. But now Hammer was being serialized, so I had to be in every other issue. And I was like, while also going to a day job and trying to juggle on life with my beautiful wife. So like it was very difficult to try to do all that for like 2 years, but I was able to make it work. There was a lot of sleepless nights, but it worked out. So
well, let's talk maybe a little bit about setting, and in two ways. There's Detroit, the city of Detroit, and also the future. So, of course, thinking about a lemonade stand is really difficult in the dead of February right now in Michigan, whereas we're just climbing out of what felt like one of the most real winters we've had in a while, which is kind of nice. As a throwback, but also kind of tough.
It came out of nowhere too. I'm like, wow, that's like
it's mild for a little bit, and then we kind of got to it. But yeah, I mean, like it's Jared's mentioned, it's like the movie Friday. It's very located like in a neighborhood or on a corner in this specific block, and for growing up, like that's our whole universe, right? Is like what's happening in our neighborhood, what's happening on our street, and like all this stuff seems so huge. But also Detroit is a city that has a lot of connotations, a lot of them super unfair and bad as a result of years and years of economic turmoil. And the cool thing that this book does is it puts it in this future where a kid like Robbie Reynolds has this automatista that can make lemonade tastes like dirty diaper or anything somebody wants.
Really let me write that.
Bacon, whatever.
A lot of disgusting flavors.
The delicious flavors and disgusting flavors. But I have a question for you, Jarod, and also a question for Jey. Was there, obviously we all sort of like right where we know we right from our surroundings and our places. But I think what's really cool about this book is the opportunity to have this non kind of like trope or cliche look at Detroit. I mean, I like thinking about Detroit in the future as well, but the things we can reach for that are like more dystopic, like RoboCop or something like that.
More dystopian.
More dystopian. So I'm wondering if you can talk about the idea to put this city, have all this sort of familiar stuff from like recognizable to us about growing up and lemonade stands and all that stuff. And also like the community that exists in present day Detroit, but also giving it this little fast forward to this really, really, really cool, optimistic, which I think is way too rare in all fictions and all speculative fictions, kind of futurescape. And sort of, was that in the original strip that you wanted to write? Was that something that came out in the process of concretizing this into like a single piece? Kind of an open-ended question. Just curious more about it.
No, it's a good question. So that's something that I actually, having daughters, I really do worry about the fiction they consume and the overwhelming amount of dystopia. While I love a good dystopian story, I think that's better served sometimes for adults than it is for kids. And there's a way in which I want kids to be able to embrace the future. Like their fears being thrown at them, things of fear being thrown at them about the future on a day-to-day basis. And so you have to show, like I want to show my daughters that there are things to be optimistic about. Detroit's in the middle of a turnaround. It's a slow turnaround, but it's a turnaround for sure. Like, and just everything what it's going to be like, the city is usually just depicted in such a negative light.
Oh yeah.
Like you were saying, and I really did. I just wanted to show a side of Detroit that I like. A lot of bad things happen, but a lot of good things. Just life just happens, and but there's just like a media slant towards Detroit that everything's all bad. But 700 to 800,000 people wouldn't live somewhere like if it was that. You know what I'm saying? It's bad, but it's just good stuff too. So that was kind of important to me, and then just wanted to show like the multicultural nature of what I think the city's going towards. That is how I see Detroit in the future. Yeah, I see it. I can see it probably getting involved in the tech sector a little heavy. Because who's not going to get involved with big city won't get involved in the tech sector pretty heavy. So it's kind of how I see Detroit looking in maybe 20, 30 years. People just it would be pretty good. So I wanted to try to get that across because like I say, if any kid picks it up and thinking about my daughters and just thinking about any kid, that they would be like, okay, this is hopeful. The future can be a fun place, and it's not like it'll be all peaches and cream, but also it just doesn't have to be, pitchforks, Hunger Games, Lord of the Flies. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Well, that's true. Actually, it makes me realize too that it's not just adult fiction or adult media that is this topic. There is a lot of dystopic, young
even in kids
reader fiction,
especially young adult. I guess young adults getting a little older. So
Insurgents, like all this other random,
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of scary. I like optimistic stories. I like comedies. I like fun things. I like happy endings. Like just like things that make you feel good. I think like we kind of get away from that sometimes. Like we strive for realism in other things in a lot of our fiction that I wish sometimes I want that unbelievable happy ending.
Right.
Because that's just as good, that's just as realistic as the unbelievable sad ending. Or like the bad ending. Like just good and bad things happen. And I think like right now, we're just in a cycle where like a lot more of the bad's being reflected. And maybe that's just, what the writers are going through. We're living in hectic times, so the writers kind of reflecting their fears. But I'm a pretty optimistic guy overall. Easygoing, kind of laid back. So,
There's also too, like there's a lot of hearing you talk about this, there's a lot of like, there's a meld of different kinds of genres too. It's kind of like, it has that comedy feel of like a Friday. But it also, there's like, it's kind of a caper. It's kind of like there's there's some intrigue and thriller aspects to it as well. Competition for the secret recipe. So I'm just wondering too, from your background as a script writer and screenwriter, like how you approach sort of like what some of your touchstones are and how you bring different kinds of elements into not just like a comedic and optimistic as you're discussing work, but also one that is, I mean, approachable by all audiences, but like targeted at a little bit younger, sort of middle grade. Like how do you what's the secret, Jarod? How do you what's the one weird trick to
I wish I knew the secret. I'd be way more successful. They you know, like a lot of the stuff I tended to write was for adults. So when I wanted to pitch for Oni Press and saw what they wanted and wanted to do something for kids young, you know, humor works the same no matter the age.
Yeah.
I think. And you know, just a lot less 4-letter words. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
actually, that's why I was shocked. I was like, oh, they let me get away with the soggy pamper lemonade. I was like, wow. Wow, that's gross. I didn't think they let me. I thought they'd be like, you might have to change that one. So so you know, you gotta. It is something you have to direct towards your audience. Of course, you know, there's certain topics you avoid away, but the rhythms kind of stay the same. As far as like all the elements of the story, you know, I want to say I hope that's where movies are going. You see a lot more things that kind of mix genres, and you definitely see it in comic books a lot.
Yes.
You read a lot of comic books, so the mixing of genres is I don't know. It's just like I guess I didn't even really think about it like that, you know what I'm saying? I just think about it as like a little comedy, and then because of that, that's probably why it mixes genres. Because I'm thinking of a comedy, and I think about things you can satirize or things that you can kind of make fun of and bring in. Probably led to that more than intentionality of it having all those different things. You know, the best movie I could say to describe the main character's arc. You ever see Election by Alexander Payne? Either one of you?
Yes.
That is exactly the same arc. Oh, so
with,
Election is Matthew
Broderick and Reese
Witherspoon. And Reese Witherspoon's an overachieving high schooler that wants to run for high school president. He's the principal, I think, the principal, and he doesn't like her, and so he just keeps trying to stop her from winning.
It's
a
dark movie, though.
It's a dark movie. This is actually the same arc Robbie kind of goes on, because the more he tries to stop her, the more he suffers the consequences of his actions, because the way he goes about the pettiness of it, right? That's kind of what I always thought the point of that movie was. This guy got so obsessed with this girl, and that's kind of the same arc I went on with this character. He gets so obsessed with her that he just makes all these questionable decisions, and could have just really made an easier decision to figure out what was going on. And so, so, you know, like I said, I think it's just maybe the kind of movies I like, I take with me, even though I'm writing kids stuff. And that's a pretty good question. But it wasn't, I didn't even think about it having thriller elements, but I guess it kind of does.
It does. I mean, there has like, well, that's what Election is a comedy, right? And it's like a satire of lots of things, but it has sort of smartly sets in this high school environment. But Lemonade Code is also sort of like, yeah, it's got this element of like competition and like almost like a war breaking out. And of course, I think what you're also saying sort of leads me to this other thing, which is like another positive aspect in terms, as well as like, what is the opposite of dystopic? Utopic kind of setting that it's taking. Wow, it's really bad that I don't know the word utopia, right? Just know the word dystopia. But there's also this like friendship parable as well, because as Robbie's learning these lessons from his pettiness, he I don't want to give anything away, but there's, you know, he has the potential from Daphne to be a competitor to be his friends. So is it, you see that a lot too with like, you know, this kind of work is directed at that audience, and it feels like for me it'd be hard to go back and recapture what it's like to be young and to be like learning lessons. I feel like I maybe didn't learn them well enough maybe when I was younger, but like maybe this is a question that's often asked too much, Jarod, of authors of works for younger readers, so I apologize if it's a question you hear too much, but like, how do you avoid pandering? How do you get into the mindset of your young characters in a way that feels authentic and real to you. And I wonder if there's an assist that comes from Jay, how do you stylize younger characters in a way that feels real and authentic? Even though I feel like maybe that's like kind of a spooky, mysterious question or something. But
well, my daughter is, when I started writing the script, she was around the same age as the characters. So there was her friends were around a lot. Plus I had the writer cheat of them being super geniuses. So if they ever talked a little bit up, it's kind of baked into the character. Yeah. But the emotional decisions that kids make, I watched, with her friends. I'm like, it's very interesting, like it will go above all logic. So here it will be. So I'm like, that was a very emotional decision. You didn't think that through. And so being able to do that with somebody that was like such a smart character was actually kind of fun. Like, because he really caused himself a lot of trouble. He didn't have to cause himself, because he was making all his decisions based on emotion, maybe a crush. You know what I'm saying? Also, the direct competition thing. Somebody just set up on his corner. Yep. Like, if this thing was really popular, I would make a t-shirt that said Robbie was right. Because he was kind of right. Now, he went about it the wrong way. And so that was another lesson kind of baked into the story for my kids, though, about fair play. So like she was an antagonist at the beginning.
Yeah.
He could have been, but then he took it immediately too far. And then when she started winning, he just took it further and further because of his pride and his ego and his pettiness and just being hurt. And so that was kind of where I think he went wrong as a character. And I really think, fair play and everything is something that I'm big on with the kids. Like, no cheating. You know what I'm saying? Like enjoy competition, instead of competition having to be so cutthroat. Like, just do it. It's a thing that can build character. It's a thing that can build growth. But if you take it too far and it's like winning at any cost, then, that's just something I just don't want the kids to do. It's fair play. So, yeah. So it was, so that's pretty much, just, I might've went off topic, but that's pretty much how I came to kind of really view these characters, and in seeing little girls are, of course, it's not all the same, but there's a quiet confidence in little girls that's different than boys, and it throws little boys off. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of a thing that I wanted to show too. And yeah, that was it. But all thanks to my daughter and her friend.
I was gonna say the dad notes thing. It just made me think of that. I don't know if it's that Mark Cuban gif of the Shark Tank where he like goes and takes a little note, like thinking of you watching the kids play, and you're like, oh, interesting. This is going into the writing journal for future use. But yeah, Jay, for you, illustrating young people, capturing emotions, our emotions are so supercharged to those ages. The conflicts are so taut. Maybe this is where the sort of cartoony manga style helps out. But yeah, I wonder how you approach, like, sometimes you have to capture like subtlety or something like that. And again, maybe I'm not trying to ask you to reveal all the tools of the trade and all the secrets, but how do you approach it?
Yeah, so one way I approach it, one of the best decisions for this book in particular, when I changed my style, one of the reasons why I changed it is because I could exaggerate poses, I could exaggerate facial expressions, I can make them as cartoony as I wanted, and it would still be within the realm of my style. It would still look correct. And I could do the same thing for character designs. That was actually one thing that I really loved about One Piece, for example. Like, you can have a character that's like, I don't know, Pumpkin sitting next to somebody from Final Fantasy, and it will look exactly the same. And I really admired that. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted like a cartoony manga style. So when I used it for this, I was really happy that I made the decision, because I could exaggerate every pose or expression that they made. For instance, my older roommate a while ago, he actually also did a book with Oni Press. He was actually the one that introduced me to the editor that I was talking about earlier. And in his book, it was also, some kids. And one of the things that he talked about was how he made like in every other panel, like the little girl, like she would wave her arms, she would be like, just moving like super like expressively because she was super energetic. And if you flip through this book, you can see that this girl is never gonna stay still. Like even when she was sitting in a chair, she was doing something because like, that's just, her personality. So, and he's my mentor, he's a teacher, like actually at SCAD as well. He's a professor. And so like he, would talk about certain subtleties like that to add into my story. So like that was one thing that I really wanted to have happen inside of the story. So I have like Robbie, he'll when he's serious or when he's like threatening, I have it like super like exaggerated. Whenever I have Daphne like smiling, it looks like super sinister or like but it's because like I'm exaggerating it as much as I can without it looking too weird. So it's just those are certain things that I try to do. Another thing, for any future artist out there, if you ever are writing from a script, read the entire script before you start drawing anything. Like, so that was one thing that I did. I wanted to get a feel of the characters before I even tried to draw even more. Yeah, Jared, we can see you. Can you hear us?
Oh, okay. Yep, I can hear you. I'm back.
Hey, what's up, man? All right. So, for every artist out there in the future, if you're ever drawing from a script, read the entire script so that way you can get a feel for those characters. And that's what I did, so I could know exactly how Robbie was, and how Daphne was, and envision them, reacting to certain, situations. Because body language, like, it says it all. Like you can, before we added the words or anything, like I wanted this book to just, be able to be understood just from, panel to panel. I didn't want you to have to think about what was happening. And that's, why I was so happy when Jarod showed it, to his daughter, and she was like, I really like this. I was like, that's awesome. She not only was able to understand like every single thing, it wasn't in color at that point either. So like that was also really cool because it was so clear and easy to understand, while also being able to get as much detail as I wanted to get into it, and all of that. Like it was a really awesome thing to hear. So I just I tried to approach it that way. I'm happy that it seems like I did it. So like I'm happy. That's
the daughter's seal of approval is
man.
Yeah.
Also, one of our editors, the new editor, she actually showed it to her. I think it's her son,
I think,
and he liked it as well. Yeah, she was flipping through it. She was like, "This is so cool!" Like, it was just a cartoon. That's what I wanted. I wanted it to be a cartoon that was just, I don't know, still. Pause.
Well, that's
Like,
tough to capture, to be able to capture that fluidity. And Jenna mentions too that you could read it and it's almost like you're watching it, like it's not it's not stilted from panel to panel, and it really comes across as well. But it's just difficult to capture fluidity and movement. I've hearing you talk, Jay, remind me of, I don't know if either of you have seen the documentary about Miyazaki, The Kingdom of Dreams and Madness, where he's
sounds amazing because I love
Miyazaki. You should definitely watch it. That's why
it's on YouTube.
It probably is.
Okay. I'll check that out.
You can find all the relevant clips, but there's just this one of him like hovering. It must be awful to work for him at the time at Ghibli. Him like hovering over an animator, being like, "Oh, a cat doesn't really move like that." Like you're not getting the thing about the cat where they do this, and like he was really getting into like the depths of it, even though you're having these kinds of like the whole idea of animation and also in manga and stuff is that overexpressiveness. But there's something about it it has to capture some kind of subtlety, right? So it's just impressive that you're able to build in both of that fluidity and sort of convey this range of motion, and also like I feel like kids can sense when something is like talking down to them, or and so that's tough to do. I would just feel an illustration too. So it's very cool how it comes across.
Thanks.
Holy cow, we're getting to the end of the time. So I think I just have one more question, which is sort of our kind of like standard question, but I like to open it up. Usually we ask at the end of these events, like, what are you reading right now? What are you enjoying? But we've talked about all sorts of media. So I want to open it up further, which I like to do in general, and just ask both of you, sure, what are you reading? What might you recommend to our viewers who are readers? But also I'm always curious to know, what are you listening to, watching, and enjoying, in addition to each other's work and this greatly successful book Lemonade Code, which you can purchase from our website.
Jared, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Go first.
Well, let me see. I'm reading Imaginary Friend by Stephen Chbosky. It's a pretty good book. It takes place in Pittsburgh. It's a little horror novel.
Yeah.
It's dense. It's about 800, maybe about 700 pages.
It's big.
But
yeah.
it touches on some pretty deep issues of spiritualism, I think, and spirituality, and just, faith and belief. It's pretty good and wrapped up in a pretty good horror story about this little kid. Let's see, about his kid starts having these dreams, these visions. He can cross over into a dream world, but there's like a sinister force over in the dream world that's trying to invade the real world, and he's like the last person that can stop it. So I'm watching. Well, the last thing I just watched, I enjoyed. It was Peninsula. Anybody see A Train to Busan?
Oh no, I haven't seen that yet.
Train to Busan is probably the greatest zombie movie in a long time, man.
They're trying to adapt it to the US, I think, or something, and someone rightly noted out that we don't have high-speed rail. So
right, I hope they don't mess it up. Don't mess it up. South Korea is doing a good job of actually, I think, in film with some of their genre films. You know what I'm saying? They're really stepping up, I think, in filmmaking. But Train to Busan was great, but Peninsula is the sequel, and they had like an awesome chase scene in there. So I'm watching WandaVision, of course. I didn't get through all episodes of that, but that's about the only thing I've been watching. Listening wise, a lot of top 40 radio, because I won't let the kids listen to what I want to really listen to. So a lot of top 40 radio, but what's the last album I listened to? My daughter's a big Harry Styles fan, actually. So I think Harry Styles. I listened to Zayn's last time. We've been going through a One Direction phase. And then I listened to, I missed out on the One Direction whole thing. Like, I didn't even know they were as big as they were. I just knew I liked Harry Styles Golden. And now I've been going through this whole One Direction thing. So that's been cool. And then, like, I listen to a lot of instrumentals. So I go on YouTube and I used to rap, so I still got a habit of going to go listen to old instrumentals. So I listen to instrumentals probably more than anything. And then I listen to a lot of stand-up comedy songs. So,
nice.
Mm-hmm.
You should have. So I wish the copy shop. We still have the copy shop at the bookstore. We used to play J Dilla Donuts all the time upstairs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Detroit's own. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what was the question? Reading, watching,
anything.
Listening.
Any Rex.
Okay. So I'm weird. Unfortunately I haven't been able to just start anything new in a really long time. So because of that, I usually what I do is I'll rewatch or I'll reread something that I already know the ending of, that I know that it already gave me that satisfaction. Yeah. And then I'm just looking for that. So I'm like, all right, I got my refill. It's time to move on, finish up what I need to work on. So that's usually what I do. With that said, there's a long list of shows and books and everything else that I want to actually dive into when I get the time, but I don't know when that's going to be. So right now, when it comes to what I'm reading, I actually just saw this book on my wife's bookshelf. It was called Wit. I think I have it right here. And I thought this looks really cool. It was a bunch of quotes of a lot of smart people that were super witty. And I've just been reading this. So I'm not through that yet. I actually just started yesterday or 2 days ago, something like that. So I have no idea. I can't give you any more information.
Well, that's the other thing is that I have a pile of books on my bedside table. It's just collecting dust because
it's just so much. There's not
so much going on.
Right, yeah.
Not enough time today. So that's what I'm reading, I guess. When it comes to entertainment wise, it's not that One Piece and anything Shonen Jump. Also all of the independent comics that we have in Saturday AM. I've been reading a lot of that, like, because we have an app and like we update it like every month. We have a quarterly magazine, our normal monthly magazine. So like I read other people's stories as well. So that's usually what I'm reading. When it comes to watching, there's a lot of anime that like I'm behind on that I actually haven't like been able to sit down and watch. So like Mob Psycho 100, like season 2 came out like I don't know last year or 2 years ago, something like that. So I just now got to the second to last episode of that. So like I'm not even done. So like that's the type of like behind I am. But
Not behind.
I know that
it's not behind.
I'm behind.
You can't be behind on having fun.
That's true. Somebody was talking about Jujutsu Kaisen though. That was a new anime, and I've been wanting to watch that. I haven't been able to. So, but movie wise,
have you
I've
seen The Great Pretender on Netflix? I'm sorry to interrupt. An anime
No,
called The Great
I
Pretender.
haven't.
Okay.
It's
it's like a heist anime. I've never really seen a heist anime before.
Huh? That's pretty cool. It's like Lupin the Third heist, or like
I don't think I never saw that. So
okay,
like,
well, never mind.
But there's like a team. It's kind of like a Italian Job, kind of Ocean's 11 heist kind of thing.
That sounds amazing. What was it called again?
The Great Pretender.
The Great Pretender.
I saw it's a continuing thing. I saw the first 6 episodes would all form like one big movie, and then it goes on to another caper. But if you ever get a chance, it might be something you enjoy.
Hey, I love heist movies. All of those movies, Inside Out. Not Inside Out. That's not a heist movie at all. Inside Job.
Heist of mind. Yeah, heist of my mind.
Anyway, in regards to movies, I don't know, just random movies. I actually did watch Inside Out recently because my wife had never watched it, so that's the reason why that came out. But so just random movies. And when it comes to like music, same thing. I have a lot of old playlists that are like old anime songs or old lo-fi. I love listening to Michael Jackson every now and then. I'll just like put that on and rock out. So I mean, it kind of just depends on whatever mood I'm in. A lot of the top 40, I agree. I listen to that, and also to your Harry Styles thing. I don't like Harry Styles, but Golden, I love that song. I don't know what it is.
So it should have got nominated for a Grammy. It's a great song.
It was a good song. It was a good song.
Just like this.
The song, yes, the song carried the album.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's basically where I'm at. I basically just draw like constantly though, so like I'm not like trying to like experience anything new, which is sad, but no, like that's where I'm at right now. I'm just trying to finish up all the work and all the ideas that I have in my head. I'm just trying to get them out. So.
For sure. Well, we've reached the top of the hour, but Jey Odin and Jarod Pratt, thank you so much for joining us at Homeless Literati. Hope to have you in the store someday soon. But until then, please continue to be safe and be well. And to all of our viewers, thank you so much for joining us as well. We hope you continue to be safe and be well, and we'll see you at the next event. So take care, everybody.
Deuces, guys.
Peace.
Thanks, both of you, so much for doing it. I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time. And I'm sorry we didn't get people live, but I'm sure we'll get people in the recording. And it was a blast to talk to both of you. It's been a super bad day. So yeah, it's really nice to actually just like hang out with
have a fun hour. Yeah.
Have a fun hour.
Oh, yeah, that was cool. It was a good conversation.
All right. I'll send you a link when the YouTube's up. But yeah, I hope we can have you in the store. Jay, if you ever come up all the way to Michigan.
I would love to. When this book and everything happened, I was so disappointed when COVID happened, not only because it was a pandemic destroying the world, but also because I wasn't gonna be able to like travel anymore. And I really wanted to do that with the book tours and all that. So it's kind of a bummer. But yeah, one day in 2032.
Not that long.
I'll come see this future. That's right. Yeah. All right, guys.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Take care, yeah.
Thanks again.
No problem. Take care, y'all.
Anytime, yeah.